Hi, this is Self-Coding Lab, and today we'll be looking into using Vue.js and Node in order to create a simple full-stack user authentication web application. So let's get started. So if you haven't done so already, I'll go to npm.js and download Vue CLI first, since that's what we'll be using today. So here on my desktop, I'll basically do the command vue create auth. Since we are creating a user authentication, you could either go about manually selecting the features that you would like for your presets, or going about using the default. I tend to use the default since it's already it's a simpler process. So this might take a while, as I said, so we'll wait a bit and get back. After 30 seconds or so, the Vue CLI has finished creating the component. So let's drag it over into our desktop. Here, let's go in, and as it said, if you see the auth npm run serve, it already has a basic simple template of Vue that we're able to serve up. So let's take a look. So here it is. So as we can see, it's quite simple, but we'll need to scrap a lot of things in order to create our own. So let's open up any code editor that we like using, or that you prefer using. I enjoy using VS Code just because it's simple and it's lightweight. So here we have the src folder where most of our main things are located, such as assets, components, app component, and main.js is where the initial rendering begins. So here, let's just get rid of everything. So I'm just gonna start from scratch. Cursive, let's remove everything. So here, delete everything. So initially, the first thing we would need is the main.js folder. So we'll import Vue from Vue, and we'll also have to create a app.vue because this is what we're going to be showing initially. So here I'm just doing some basic simple templating to kind of get this up and going, and in order to show you guys how this looks. So here we would do new view, element app render each turn each. So as you can see, it renders and shows our app component. One thing that I didn't mention earlier was for those who are more new to using Vue.js and don't know what this EL stands for, it stands for element, and we basically grab in the ID of the root element that we are looking to grab, which is located in public index.html div ID of app. App is usually the traditional ID name that it comes with when you install and create a Vue project using Vue CLI. And this is just a render function that we're able to kind of call and display our initial parent component of app. Since we got the simple front end going, let's also create the backend. So here, let's go to the root directory and create a server.js. Since we are using Express, we'll install that as well. We will also be using Mongoose for grabbing from MongoDB database that we'll be creating later. And body parser in order to grab data from the front end. installing those 3 packages took about 20 seconds for me. So after installing the packages, we'll go about importing them into our server file. So since this is such a small and simple project, I guess we will include everything under a single server.js file instead of breaking them and refactoring them into route folders and things like that. So require mongoose as well. Let's first initialize an app in order to get the server running. So also create a port. Process.env.port 5000. Port. Just some simple error checking. And server port. Let's do that. And in order to run both the front end and the back end, in this case the server.js, let's go to the package.json. And because we know we're able to basically run our front end Vue project with the use of serve, npm run serve, let's just create one for server as well. Which in this case, if you don't have NodeMon downloaded, I suggest that you do, because it really helps boost things up regarding development time, because it basically refreshes whenever you make any changes and save files in the backend. So we'll go about using that as well. Server. If we do that and come here, create a new tab and npm run server to running, and see that localhost 5000 will be where we're going to for our backend. See, initially when we go to localhost 5000, which is where our backend is located, it says cannot get slash. It's because we don't have any routes that are sending any data back. Let's say get send hello. Should be able to see hello, because we're able to send the data back. Since we got the bare bones structure of the backend running up as well, let's go back to the front end and create a sign up and a login page as well. So here we'll go about creating a new folder, components, in order to kind of separate the files. So we'll have a login.view. We'll have a sign.view as well. So we'll create a simple template. Sign up. Script. So in this sign up section, we'll only have simple. Well, initially, let's grab the sign up folder. We'll get a sign up component and kind of display it so that we're able to see the existing changes throughout the sign up component. So import sign up from components. Since we're in this directory, we need to move into a directory inwards of components and grab the sign up component. Sign up, and we'll also need to register within our file to use it. So let's get rid of this text and show a sign up component. So if you go back to 8080, nothing's here because we have yet to initialize any text. See if we refresh. Nothing showing. Let's look into the console.log, sign up, did you register the components correctly? For recursive components, please use a name option. So we do have a name. Oh, this is the area where it's supposed to be components, not component. So let's add in the S in the end. And there we go, it shows the sign up component is not working. For this video, we won't be really adding in any CSS just because we will be only focusing on the functional aspects of the project. So here, let's add in a type of text. We'll add in some input fields so we'll be able to kind of send to the backend. I won't really add in any validation either, just because that's something that I believe that can be done alone. I feel like the importance of this video lesson is to focus on the authentication workflow. Here, let's add in some inputs. If we save it, we have 3 inputs. We'll add in some styling just so that it's easier on the eye. Input display of block. So if we do that, they're on. Well, actually, let's not even do that. We'll just add in some break tags. So we'll do this name, email, password. So if we do that, there we have 3 tags. And we'll also have a button for sign up. So we initially have these 3 inputs and a simple sign up button that we're able to click. So now let's bind the inputs with our data. With the data that we're going to be creating now. So we have a name, create empty for now, email, empty, password, empty. And here, in order to bind the input value to our data field, we'll be doing model, or not colon model, be v model. So this is a name field, we'll do name. Model, email, model, password, and let's test out the chain if we're able to grab the values within the inputs. So let's do click on sign up, and we'll create a sign. Whenever it clicks, it will call a sign up function, and here we'll create methods object in order to create our custom sign up function. So console.log. In order to grab these values in different methods, you go by using this .name, console.log. This is the email, console.log. This is the password, and let's do self-coding lab. Whatever password. If you see here, well, let's try to move this up and click on the sign up. Here it shows the first line should be this .name, then this .email, then this .password. And this is the password, this is the email, this is the name. So we're able to see that we're storing our input values into our data variables, so that's good. So we're able to kind of use this whenever the sign up function is called and send it to the backend in order to kind of create a user. So we finished our sign up page with a simple console.logs, and in order to check and verify that we're able to grab the input values into our data variables. Now let's move on to the backend and create a signup route that we're able to connect our signup component to. Before we go about doing that, one thing I do want to mention is the folder structure. So if I were to want to publish this into production, I'll probably go about creating a better folder structure, such as having a client folder for anything in the front end and a server folder, so anything in the back end, so that we're able to differentiate our folder hierarchies throughout and have a cleaner look throughout folder structures. So here, let's first include our body parser into our app server. So in order to do that, you go app use body parser JSON app use body parser URL encoded extended equals false. And here, let's routes. So app.post, since if you were to send data back, it would be a post route because we're sending data such as name, email, and password to the backend in order to sign up a user. So in order to do that, we'll have a sign up route. Rec res next. And yeah, that's about it for the backend for now. And if you go back to the front end, we will need to basically download a npm module called Axios to call and send data to the backend, and in order to get data as well from an API route. So npm install --save Axios. Axios took about 16 seconds, as we could see. Since we have installed, let's go about including that into our signup component. So import Axios from Axios. And here we could create a new variable called new user, since we're registering a user with the name property of this.name, since this is how we grab a this.name property after signup function is called. Email, this.email, and password, this.password. If you console.log new user, let's test it out. Self-coding live@gmail.com 123. As you can see here, you're able to see different values that are within the object that we populated. For security reasons, let's change the text to password, since we don't want them to see our passwords, even though it's us creating it. Someone else might see it, so just in case. And now let's send the new user to the backend. So in order to go about doing that is axios.post, the route of your API backend. So in this case, it'll be localhost. Well, it'll be HTTP localhost 5000/signup. And we'll basically send the new user in the second parameter, because if you see, post function requires URL as the first parameter and data as the second parameter, and config, which just means options, as the third, which will be later showing you how to do that. Well, now we're sending the data. Now let's kind of see what we're able to grab in the backend. Since we're not console logging anything in the backend in the signup route, let's do that in order to see if the data is successfully sent to the backend. So where the data will be incoming would be through the rec. So it'll be rec.body. So if you do that and save it, and go to the server file, let's test it out, self-coding, gmail.com, and whatever the password. So here it says access to XML request localhost 5000 sign up from origin, localhost 8080 has been blocked by course policy. This is something you might run across often when you're creating a full stack development project. So if you do end up running on into course, just npm install --save course, or course, spelled it wrong. And after course is done downloading or done installing, basically include const course because require course and app.use course, and you basically initialize course within an app.use function. If you do that, that's basically it in order to fix this error. So if we resend the data, we're able to see right here, which is the server tab of the terminal, name self-coding, email self-coding@gmail.com, and password. Currently, the password is a plain text. Later, we should be hashing the password, preferably with the SHA-256, and kind of storing that into the database instead of storing a pure plain text password.